Welcome to the Prancing Pig Pumpkin Plate Project. Feel free to stop the video as we're going through if you need time to catch up. Get your brushes ready. Some other things that are going to help are paper plates, and we need a toothpick for this project. Other things that are helpful are water, a paper towel, a pen, and a pair of scissors. All right, your first step is to open up your black top. This is going to be the background color for your entire plate. We're going to flip it over, of course, and we're going to start to paint. Now, if you have a brush that's larger than the one here, I suggest using it. I've decided to use the smaller brush because not everyone has a large brush, like a fan brush or something that looks almost like a broom on the bottom. Those are helpful. But because you might not have that, and the brushes that I sell in my packs are a little bit smaller, I've decided to paint with the largest of my brushes. That way, I'll show you how to paint with those, but if you've got the bigger one, that helps. And you just want to make sure you do 3 solid coats. Now, I don't know if you saw, but you need to check and make sure before you start with your next coat that the first one has dried. Easy to do, you just simply want to touch it with your finger and make sure it doesn't come off. Okay, we're going to flip the plate over. I got tired of holding it, so I'm going to use my paper plate, kind of like a turntable. We're just going to put it right on your paper plate, and you can see you use it to turn the plate around. All right, get out that toothpick. We're going to put our names on the back. Now, I'm going to write my first name and a date, but I would appreciate that for you. I have your name and your last initial, or 3 initials. That way I can tell everybody's plates from each other when we get them ready at the studio. Now, once you carve in your name, I want you to make sure it's dry. Give it a minute and then brush it off with a paintbrush. It's a little bit easier. You can blow it off, but take that paintbrush and gently just sweep those little pieces of glaze off of there. All right, we're flipping our plate onto the front now. Now, I've gone ahead and skipped ahead. I've painted 2 nice solid coats, and this is my 3rd. You can see I'm trying to keep those strokes nice and smooth and even. We're going to keep that coat even, and you really should use almost the whole thing of blacktop that we give you. With 3 solid coats on the front and the back, you're going to find that you use almost everything. Nice, smooth, even coats, and you can also make sure you do around the rim of your plate. Don't forget. All right, I want you to cut out your pumpkin, and I want you to place your cut out pumpkin on your plate. Just watch those edges. Don't worry, it doesn't need to be perfect, but kind of close. And you can put it off a little off center, right in the center, however you'd like to do it. Grab your pen, and you're going to trace. Okay, now I'm going to fast forward through this, but we're going to trace onto the plate, and there is your background. Now, you're going to take this darling clementine, and I promise you that's going to turn a little more orange. And the goal for the first step, take the top point in the middle, and we're going to work our way from the middle out. You're going to do 1 full, solid, nice, thick coat. If you can see there, I really am using a nice amount of paint. Nice and thick and solid. As soon as that paintbrush starts to pool, as soon as that starts to feel crumbly, it is not enough paint. You need to keep that brush really, really, really plump and full of paint. We're gonna fill in this whole center section that you have outlined with your pen. Now, you might find that there's actually little divots or little marks on your plate. It's okay. That's gonna disappear. You don't wanna push super hard when you outline, but you want a little bit. those are the lines that you're going to follow. So nice and smooth. You can see here I'm just going right to the edge and right off the edge. And I'm using the edge of my brush that's super full of paint right now to kind of make that edge nice and even. If you go over the line, it's okay. Make yourself a new line. It will work just fine. That's why we work from the inside out. If you go a little bit over, we're going to start our next step a little bit away. All right, once that first piece is done, I'm going to kind of fast forward again, but you can see that we are literally leaving a line of black paint right in between each section. This is, you can see why we're going to work from the inside out. So don't go right up to the edge, just go close enough to leave a black line. If this is not perfect, do not worry about it. It's okay. It's not going to be perfect. I bet you've never seen a perfect pumpkin when you went to pick up a perfect pumpkin. You're not going to see a perfect piece here. Now what I'm doing is I'm fixing this little, I splattered a little bit of paint. It's no big deal. If you find that your brush is getting kind of clumpy, you can scrape it right on the edge of that paint canister there and scrape off any clumps and make a nice neat edge with your paintbrush. You can also push down on the paintbrush like I'm doing here. If you're pushing down with a full paintbrush, that's actually going to push the paint out to the side and create a nice line for you. So as you're pushing the paint right out and creating the even edge. And don't worry about the sections. If those sections are touching, the orange sections are touching, it's okay. They're still going to look great. And if you look in my sample, you can see that some of my sections are touching too. All right, I made sure that was dry. Now we're going to go on to our step 2 with our Darling Clementine. That's your DC glaze there. Now, this time we are not going to go all the way to the edge of the orange. You want to paint a section within your section. If that makes sense to everyone. Again, don't paint your second orange coat all the way out to the edge of your first coat. You want to leave space. So what we're doing is we're going to create a look that gives a little depth and dimension to your pumpkin. And this is how we're doing it. We are doing what we call a layering effect. So we're layering the glaze. That's going to make the glaze on top of your first coat pop out a little bit. Those little pieces that you're not touching now from the first coat are going to have a little bit more black in them. They're going to be a little bit darker than your second step on top of the first. That's going to be a little bit brighter orange. And you can take a look at the picture of the pumpkin if that helps to understand this. But basically just fill in those sections again. Don't go all the way to the edge. All right, get your bag of green. And you can either squeeze this right out onto your small plate, which we're going to use as a palette. You could also take the scissors and have mom or dad cut just the edge of that little bag off. You can just simply clip that edge, squeeze all that paint out onto your plate, and use it. All right, we are going to get our paintbrush out. We've got our green ready. You just want a little teeny skinny brush, not anything too big. And we are just going to simply start filling in your stem. Now, the stem is kind of funky. It has a lot of twists and turns that we're going to put into it. This does not need to be a really solid, perfect coat. In fact, it looks better if it's kind of streaky. So don't stress about making it perfect. I just want you to get some on there, and you can see that I'm kind of purposely making it look streaky and not perfect. I want some of the green to be darker than other parts of the green, and that's what I'm doing here. Just making that point really small and just very gently drawing little tiny lines. Now what'll happen is I've deposited little pools of paint, and then I just kind of pull those through. So just nice and easy, nice and slow. Make a little dainty line as small as you can. If it's thicker than mine, it's okay. It's just a little thing hanging off of there. So just nice and smooth, little dainty line. All right, we're gonna get your brown, your next color, just a little tiny bit of brown. We're just gonna do a couple quick wisps. All you wanna do is put just a little tiny bit of brown into your stem and put a little tiny bit of brown into your leaves. Now I know you're not gonna be able to see where you marked underneath there. That's okay, it's not a big deal. Just kind of follow along with me. Some easy, quick wisps of brown. Now you're going to get your toothpick back out and just make a couple of scrapes. Simple lines. You want to scrape through down to the black part of the plate. You don't want to scrape all the way to the bottom of the plate, just through the green into the black. That way you're going to put some of the black lines into your stem and your leaves. See? Just a little scraping, nothing perfect. A little messy is just right. Resist the urge to brush off the little excess there. We're gonna let that dry a little while, and we are going to put our highlights on. So you wanna get your white and a brush. You can use a little fan brush like this, or just a regular brush is fine too. Just a little tiny bit of paint. You wanna discard it on the plate. Less is more. You can always add paint, but it's difficult to take it away. So you just want just a little teeny tiny bit just on the ends, so you can lightly brush it. This is not going to come out as white looking as it looks here showing up on top of that orange. It's going to blend in a little bit more. It's just going to make that orange part of the pumpkin a lighter orange color. So don't worry. Again, don't worry about mistakes. It's not the end of the world. Try to keep the white on the orange, but just little teeny tiny bits. Just keep adding just little tiny brushes. Super light on the paint. Super easy. If you get it too thick or weird, you can do what I'm doing there and just take your finger and rub a little bit of it off. But just nice light little brush strokes. And we're gonna finish up the highlights while the stem is drying. All right, just of course again, sweep off that excess glaze after it dries. Make sure it's dry first before you sweep, or you're gonna spread it. Take that brush and just sweep off the little pieces. I'm blowing it right now. All right, and there you can see close up what it looks like. And that's it. We're all done. This is your final project. This is what your plate should look like. It's not gonna be perfect, like I said. Don't you worry about that. You can see there's little crumbles and things. A lot of that will fade in the fire. We're gonna put it in a kiln and fire it up. When we do, it's gonna look like this. Your plate's gonna be gorgeous. Can't wait to see it.